Hey, this is Jason Clark here at South Dakota State University again, and welcome back to our webinar series on nitrogen rate recommendations. In this video, we'll be talking about understanding the 1.2 in our yield goal fertilizer recommendation. So let's go get going. So to this point in our yield goal recommendation system, we've talked about our yield goal, how we set that. You can see a previous video for that. And now the step number 2 is going to be looking at that coefficient, that 1.2. So the first question is, where does that 1.2 come from? So very simply, if we do some math, this is where it comes from. We take our soil test nitrogen value from 0 to 6 and 6 to 24 inches in pounds per acre. We take our fertilizer nitrogen recommendation in pounds per acre that we needed to obtain optimal yield, and we add those together. So in this example, we'd say that adds up to 240 pounds of nitrogen per acre. And then we're going to take that number and we're going to divide it by the bushels per acre that we achieved with that soil test plus fertilizer nitrogen value. So in this example, 200 bushels per acre. We do the math, and we get 1.2 pounds of nitrogen per bushel of corn. And this is where that 1.2 number comes from. So if we look at these 21 sites that we have in our example data set, we're going to take that soil N from 0 to 24 inches in pounds per acre. We're going to add on top of it the fertilizer N it took to optimize yield, and then we're going to take that and divide it against this green bar, which is our optimal yield. And when we do that, we're going to get our coefficient. However, one thing to remember with these sites is that we have 7 sites that didn't require nitrogen fertilizers, so there was some oddities there that might show up in our data that we're going to have to consider. So on this graph, we have our 1.2 coefficient line, that yellow line. That's where we are currently. So now we're going to see how these 21 sites meet up with our current recommendation of that 1.2 coefficient. So we can see here there are some sites that are right on that line, some sites that are a little bit below. However, there's a bunch of sites that are quite a bit below that. If we take the average of all these sites, that line actually moves down to around 0.7. However, if we remember from the last slide, we said that these 7 sites didn't respond to nitrogen fertilizer for various reasons. So if we discount those sites and don't include them in our average actually moves up to around 0.9. In a later video, we'll compare these different numbers to see which one is the most accurate system. But this is how we evaluate and how we determine that 1.2 and how we're going to determine if that 1.2 needs to change in the future. So we have our yield goal. And the next thing is we multiply that by a 1.2 coefficient. And the next step is soil test nitrogen, which is in our next video. So thank you for your time. Again, feel free to follow us on our social media accounts to get up-to-date information on each of our research projects. And feel free, if you have any questions, to shoot me an email.